She left me blind and broke. I rebuilt everything quietly. Then I took it all back.
I'm 49 years old, and 2 years ago I lost my eyesight in a workplace explosion at the mill where I'd worked since I was 21. I wasn't always blind. I was the kind of guy who fixed things with his hands, who could build a deck, get a carburetor, patch a roof, all without calling someone else. My wife, Rachel, used to say I had working man's magic. We were married for 23 years. Raised 2 kids together. Built a decent life in a small town near Lake Erie. Then, in one split second, everything changed. A pressure valve burst. There was a flash, then a sound like the sky tearing in half, and when I opened my eyes, there was nothing but black. They told me it might be temporary. Retinal burns. Maybe it would come back. It didn't. Rachel was there at the hospital at first. She held my hand. Read me cards from the guys at the shop. But by the 3rd week, I noticed she wasn't staying long. She'd come in with coffee for herself, none for me. She started talking more about how hard this all was on her. 3 months after the accident, I was home trying to relearn how to navigate my own kitchen with a mobility cane when she said it. I didn't sign up to be someone's nursemaid. Her voice was flat. Like she was talking about a car that wouldn't start. You're still young, I told her. We can figure this out. No, she said. You can figure this out. She was gone a week later. Packed a suitcase, left a note, and didn't say goodbye in person. The note said she needed to find herself. Said she hoped I'd understand. She drained our joint account. Moved to Chicago. I found out from our daughter Emily, who spotted her new Instagram profile, rebranded as Rachel Elise, life coach and midlife rebirth mentor. She was smiling in yoga poses. Holding a glass of wine on a rooftop. There was a man in several pictures, a younger guy, with a square jaw and a tattoo of a lion on his neck. And me? I was home alone, sitting in the dark. But I wasn't broken. Not quite. Not yet. You don't notice how many little things sight gives you until it's gone. Which drawer the forks are in. Where the step is outside the front porch. The difference between the coffee tin and the dog food. I learned fast. Not because I had a choice, but because nobody else was going to help me. Rachel was gone. My son was stationed in Germany. Emily visited when she could, but she had her own life 2 states away. I hired a part-time aide, Ruth. 61, blunt, kind, and not one for pity. She didn't talk much, just helped me navigate the practical. Taught me tricks, folding $1 one way for 20s, another way for 5s. Labeling my spices in Braille. Learning to hear the tone of a room. You've got time now, she said one afternoon. Use it. I did. Rachel sent a letter 6 months after she left. I hope you're doing okay. I've been thinking about how we left things. I wasn't my best self. I had to go. I hope one day you can forgive me. At the bottom, she'd scribbled a postscript. By the way, please sign the documents. It'll make things easier. It was a packet of divorce papers. Clean, quiet, final. I didn't sign them. Not yet. Instead, I started learning. Not just how to live blind, but how to listen deeper than I ever had before. I found audiobooks. Not novels, manuals. Business law. Personal finance. Fraud litigation. Rachel had always handled the taxes, the online accounts, the shared bills. But not anymore. Now it was my turn to understand what she'd left behind. And what she'd stolen. Turns out, Rachel had refinanced the house just before the accident. Without telling me. The equity line was under both our names, but she'd forged my authorization. Badly. The notary was a friend of hers. The documents were legal, but fragile. I brought this up with Ruth one morning over coffee. She thought I'd never find out, I said. She thought you'd never look, Ruth replied. The next time Emily visited, she brought her laptop. Helped me set up access to the shared financial history. Rachel had closed every joint account. Liquidated our savings. Moved the funds into something called Lionview Holdings. Who's behind that? I asked. Emily's fingers tapped. Then stopped. Looks like it's just one owner. A guy named Lucas Denning. The man from Rachel's Instagram. I smiled for the first time in weeks. They were playing house in Chicago now. Rachel still had her name on our home. But she hadn't made a single payment since she left. That refinance debt. It was mounting. Quietly. And the mortgage company had no idea I was even blind, because Rachel had listed me as away on extended travel. Interesting choice of words. I filed a notice of fraud with the county recorder's office. Quiet. No drama. Just enough to raise a red flag on the title. Then I did something that took Rachel completely off guard. I called her. She didn't recognize the number. Picked up after 2 rings. Hello. Hi Rachel. It's Matthew. Silence. Then. Oh. Wow. Hi. I wasn't expecting. You sent some documents, I said. About the divorce. Right, yes. I just thought. I haven't signed anything. And I've contacted the mortgage company. Pause. What, why? Just tying up some loose ends, I said calmly. You'll be hearing from them soon. I ended the call. The next day, Emily texted me a screenshot of Rachel's latest Instagram story. Her face tight, captioned. Some people can't let go. But I'm moving forward. Grace and peace. Lucas was in the background, pouring champagne. They had no idea I'd just stopped the sale of their new condo. Because that holding company they set up. I'd filed a restraining notice on that too. She thought I'd fade away in the dark. But I wasn't in the dark anymore. I was watching. Rachel might have left me, but she didn't leave quietly. She left a trail, emails, transactions, online bragging, and worst of all, arrogance. That was her real weakness. But Lucas? He was worse. I'd seen men like him before. Confident because they hadn't failed yet. A lion tattoo on his neck, wearing tailored shirts and running investments through shell companies. The kind of guy who calls himself an entrepreneur but can't explain what he actually does. I didn't need to know the full story to see the pattern. Rachel had been flattered. Lucas had seen opportunity. And then he made the mistake. He listed our house. The one Rachel hadn't paid a dime toward in 6 months. The same one with my name still on the deed. She tried to flip it quietly through a pre-market buyer, a fake listing under another company, Urban Gold Realty. But I had alerts set up now. When that listing went live, my lawyer flagged it immediately. Photos of my living room, my walls, my porch swing. The caption read. Perfect for modern couples, flexible seller, eager to close fast. I called the county recorder's office the same afternoon and filed a full ownership dispute. That stopped the sale cold. Then, I added a fraud claim. 2 days later, the buyer walked. Rachel called me. I don't understand what's going on, she said, trying to sound confused. Why are you doing this? You tried to sell my house, I replied calmly. I didn't think you cared about it anymore. I didn't care, I said. Until someone tried to steal it. Pause. This isn't fair, she whispered. No, I said. It's not. Then I hung up. Lucas, being the genius he was, tried to call too. Left a voicemail. Hey, man. I don't know what your deal is, but this property is legally shared. You need to step aside and let things move forward. Don't make this complicated. I saved the message. Then had my lawyer add it to the complaint file. But I wasn't done. See, Lucas didn't know something important. Rachel had used my pension account, the VA fund I'd quietly set up before the accident, as collateral for a personal loan she took out under Lionview Holdings. That was federal fraud. When I confronted the bank, documents in hand, along with proof I hadn't signed a single form, they panicked. The account was frozen. Lucas's access revoked. Then the bank did what all institutions do when they feel legal heat. They started talking. Turns out Lucas had pulled similar moves before, 2 lawsuits settled out of court, both involving co-managed assets with women who later disappeared from his social profiles. Different states. Same trick. Only this time, I wasn't some passive bystander. I had time. I had paperwork. And I had a growing stack of evidence. Rachel must have started sensing it. Her post stopped. The wine glass selfies, the yoga affirmations, they vanished. Emily called one afternoon and said, "Dad, Mom's asking questions."
Sorry to interrupt your viewing experience. But we really need your support, namely a subscription to the channel, which can make it possible to hire a professional voice actor and make the best content for you.
She wants to know what you're planning. I told her the truth. I'm not planning anything, I said. I'm just making sure the things she did are finally being seen for what they are. A week later, I got a certified letter. It was an offer. Rachel wanted to settle everything. She'd relinquish her claim to the house. Walk away from any shared accounts. Even write a letter confirming she'd forged the refinance documents, if I agreed not to press charges. It was desperation. She wasn't protecting me. She was protecting Lucas. She was protecting herself. I forwarded the letter to my attorney with one line. We let them hang themselves. That night, I sat on the back steps of my house, and listened to the wind push through the trees. I couldn't see the stars. But I didn't need to. I was already watching everything collapse. The strange thing about justice is how slowly it moves, until it doesn't. Rachel and Lucas had tried to treat my life like a worn-out jacket they could toss out and sell off. But the thing about jackets, especially old ones, is they still carry fingerprints. Sweat. Smell. Memory. They couldn't erase me from what we built. Not legally. Not financially. Not even spiritually. The house was the beginning. My lawyer, Ellen, had filed a restraining claim on the property title, which stopped the fraudulent sale cold. But she wasn't done. We requested a forensic analysis on the refinancing documents, the ones with the fake signature. It was a long shot. We didn't need it. But Ellen had a sense. Turns out, the signature Rachel used, copied from a scanned insurance form I'd signed 10 years ago. And the file had been emailed to her. From her office. Time-stamped. IP tagged. It wasn't just forgery. It was premeditated fraud. Meanwhile, Lucas had vanished from Rachel's public life. Deleted social media. Closed the Lionview site. But the bank flagged several wire transfers made under his name, from our stolen account, to a holding company in the Caymans. The FBI took notice. What began as a civil case had now become federal. Then, it got better. One afternoon, Ellen forwarded me an email chain between Rachel and the title company that had attempted the house sale. It had been subpoenaed. In it, Rachel expressed urgency. The previous owner is unwell, she wrote. Blind, largely unresponsive. We just want to simplify the process before he passes. I sat with that line for a while. Unwell. Unresponsive. That was the narrative she'd spun. Like I was just waiting to fade out. I wasn't angry. I was clear. I gave Ellen the green light to escalate. We filed a claim of intentional misrepresentation. Rachel and Lucas had attempted to profit off a property by falsely claiming I was mentally and physically incapable of managing my affairs. The court accepted the filing. A judge issued a temporary freeze on all their financial activity tied to the property, including the refinancing money and Lionview's remaining assets. They couldn't touch a dollar. Rachel called me again. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. I don't know what you're trying to do, Matt. We both made mistakes. Can we just stop before this gets worse? I listened to it 3 times. There was no apology. No remorse. Just fear. A few days later, I received a call from Agent Ramirez with the Federal Fraud Unit. We believe Lucas Denning has defrauded at least 3 other individuals across 2 states using a similar playbook, he said. The VA angle makes this federal. Do you need me to testify? Yes, he said. And we'll need everything. I gave him access to every document. Every notarized form. Every email. Every voicemail. And the surveillance logs. Because yes, Rachel had returned to the house once. She didn't know I had the porch camera set to record audio. She and Lucas walked up the steps, unlocked the door, walked through my home, laughing. He's gone, Lucas said. If he was gonna fight, he'd have done it already. Exactly, Rachel replied. He's just going to fade away. That footage became evidence. It was enough. A week later, the indictment came. Wire fraud. Forgery. False statements to a financial institution. Misappropriation of VA benefits. Rachel was served at her office. Lucas was arrested at O'Hare. I got the call while sitting at the kitchen table. Same spot where I'd read my first Braille label. Same place Rachel used to drink coffee and scroll her phone. Mr. Carter, Agent Ramirez said, you're going to want to watch the news tonight. I didn't need to. I already knew what was coming. I didn't feel joy when I saw Rachel's mugshot on the news. No vengeance. No celebration. Just peace. The kind that comes when a storm finally runs out of sky. The report was short. 2 individuals charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud, financial deception involving VA assets, and attempted sale of property under false pretenses. They didn't say my name. They didn't need to. Rachel looked nothing like she used to in the photos, eyes dull, hair unkempt, shoulders pulled tight like she was bracing for a blow. Lucas looked worse. Turns out, his Cayman holding account was linked to 5 other flagged transfers. He'd been playing the same game for years, targeting older spouses, exploiting property rights, and flipping homes through shell companies. But this time, the VA was involved. And they don't play. Ellen called me the next morning. She's trying to negotiate a plea, she said. Her attorney reached out with an offer. I'm listening. She agrees to full restitution. Surrenders her stake in the property. Admits the forgery in writing. Walks away from all shared benefits. In exchange. I waited. She asks that you don't press additional charges beyond what the state and federal courts are pursuing. I leaned back in my chair. Is that all? She also asked if she could write you a letter. It came 2 days later. Handwritten. 3 pages. I asked Ruth to read it aloud. I wasn't ready to touch it myself. Rachel wrote about fear. About being overwhelmed. About meeting Lucas at a networking retreat and being told she could have a new life. That she'd spent years being the wife of a man who belonged more to his work than his home. She said she was sorry. Said she'd made mistakes. Said she missed the way I used to hum when I made coffee in the morning. I listened to Ruth's voice as she read it, but I didn't feel any of the things I expected. Not anger. Not sadness. Not nostalgia. Just space. Empty and clean. I called Ellen back. Accept the plea, I said. But only if the confession is notarized and attached to the restitution. Done. Lucas got 8 years. Rachel got 3, with 2 suspended, and 1 year probation. Her record would follow her. But I wouldn't. Because there was nothing left between us worth carrying. I stayed in the house. Not out of sentimentality. But because I had earned it. Brick by brick. Mortgage by mortgage. Memory by memory. It wasn't just a place anymore. It was proof. Proof that I had been here. That I had stood back up when everything tried to push me down. One afternoon, months later, I was sanding a piece of pine for a bookshelf I'd promised Emily. Ruth came in with the mail. There's something from the Department of Veteran Affairs, she said. It was a letter. A formal notification. Mr. Carter. We are reaching out to inform you that based on the outcome of the Carter vs. Denning fraud case, your testimony and documentation have directly led to the recovery of financial losses in 4 other veteran cases. Your cooperation has been instrumental in uncovering a pattern of abuse affecting vulnerable service members. We thank you. I sat with that letter for a long time. Then I pinned it to the kitchen wall. Right above where Rachel used to keep the calendar. Some things you let go of. Others you hang where you can always see them. Winter came in slow that year. Lake Erie had that quiet glass look it gets when the wind dies down and the cold sinks deep into the ground. The kind of stillness where even the snow falls without sound. I sat on the porch, listening to the weight of it all. Not grief. Not anger. Just, the weight of everything I'd carried, and everything I didn't need to carry anymore. Rachel had been sentenced 3 weeks earlier. Lucas was already behind bars. The court had ruled the refinance invalid, and the property, my house, was now mine alone. Ellen offered to help me sell it. But I didn't. Not yet. I wasn't hiding in it. I wasn't stuck. I was healing. A house doesn't have to be a grave. Sometimes, it's a quiet kind of battlefield. The one you survive. The one you clean with your hands, not because you're broken, but because you're rebuilding. I donated half of the restitution money to the Veterans Legal Resource Initiative, an underfunded nonprofit that helps former service members navigate divorce, fraud, and property disputes. I asked them to remain anonymous. I didn't want recognition. Just results. Emily came by for the holidays. We cooked together, chili, her favorite. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, same place she used to do homework back in high school. She looked around, quieter than usual. Dad? Yeah. You okay now? I thought about it. The woman I'd loved had become someone I didn't recognize. The man she left me for had turned betrayal into a business. And I had stood up, blind, alone, furious, and chosen discipline over revenge. I'm better than okay, I said. Really? I'm free. She smiled. Didn't say more. She didn't need to. The day the snow melted, I packed a duffel bag and left the house for the first real trip I'd taken in years. Ruth dropped me off at the bus station. You sure you don't want to ride back? She asked. Nope, I said. This time, I don't need a destination. She squeezed my hand and walked away. I didn't leave to escape anything. I left because I had proven what needed to be proven. That dignity isn't passive. That silence isn't weakness. That there are men in this world who don't scream when they're wronged, they plan. They prepare. And then, when the time is right, they let go.
What do you think of the story? Write in the comments.